Hey everyone, and welcome. You know how some websites just feel different? Like they work when you're offline, they send you notifications, and they're just super fast? Well, that's not magic. It's a seriously cool piece of tech working behind the scenes called a service worker. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this secret agent of the modern web.
So, here's the plan. First, we'll get to know our secret agent and what makes it tick. Then, we'll break down its life cycle, how it gets hired for the job. After that, we get to the fun part, the amazing superpowers it gives to websites. And finally, we'll zoom out to see the big picture, the good, the bad, and how this all leads to something called progressive web apps.
All right, let's start with a really simple but kind of game-changing question. What if a website could still work even when your internet connection drops? I mean, really work. That's the exact problem service workers were built to solve, and honestly, they completely change what we should expect from the web.
So what exactly is a service worker? Well, at its heart, it's just a script that your browser runs in the background, totally separate from the web page you're looking at. The best way to think of it is like a super smart receptionist or a gatekeeper for your browser. It sits right between your device and the internet, and it gets to look at every single request you make and decide what to do with it.
Now, there are a few key things that make service workers so powerful. First, they run on a totally separate thread, which is huge because it means they can't freeze up the page you're looking at. Second, and this is for security, they will only work on sites served over HTTPS, no exceptions. Third, they're event-driven, which is a fancy way of saying they sleep most of the time to save battery and only wake up when they're needed. And finally, the most important part, they can intercept every single network request a page makes. That's the source of their power.
Okay, so how does this secret agent actually get hired and start its job? Well, that brings us to its life cycle. It's not instant. There's a very specific three-step process that every service worker has to go through before it can start doing its thing. The whole thing kicks off with registration. This is where your web page basically taps the browser on the shoulder and says, hey, over here is my service worker script, you should know about it. Next up is the install step. This is a really crucial one-time thing where the service worker grabs all the essential files, the HTML, the CSS, key images, and stores them in a special cache. And finally, once it's installed, it enters the activate phase. This is when it officially takes control of the page and does a little housekeeping, like clearing out any old, outdated caches.
Once it's active, the service worker is basically just sitting there, listening for one very important signal, the fetch event. Anytime your page tries to grab something from the network, whether it's an image, some data, or a whole new article, that fetch event goes off. And that's the service worker's cue to spring into action, grab that request, and make a decision. Should it serve the file from the cache? Should it let the request go out to the internet? Or maybe it should show a custom offline page instead. It's in complete control.
And this is where things get really, really cool. Because by controlling all those requests, service workers unlock a whole set of incredible superpowers for any website, turning it from just a simple document into a powerful, reliable application.
The first and most fundamental superpower is advanced caching. By smartly storing parts of the website on your device, a service worker can make that site load almost instantly on your second visit. And, of course, this is what allows it to work even when you're totally offline. This superpower is really the bedrock for almost everything else.
Now, developers have a few different ways to handle this caching. It's not one size fits all. For example, a cache-first strategy is perfect for things that don't change often, like a website's logo or its fonts. Network-first is better for things you always want to be fresh, like breaking news headlines. But a really popular one is called stale while revalidate. It's kind of the best of both worlds. It instantly shows you the cache version so the page loads fast, but at the same time, it goes to the network in the background to grab a fresh copy for the next time you visit. Pretty clever, right?
All right, superpower number 2 is a huge one for keeping you engaged. Push notifications. Because that service worker is always running in the background, it can listen for a message from a server and then pop up a notification on your device, even if you've closed that website's tab or even closed your browser entirely.
And this isn't some obscure feature. You've definitely seen it. Big players like Twitter, Flipkart, and Pinterest all use web push notifications. They use them to alert you about new messages, let you know about a sale, or tell you about new content, pulling you right back into their site. And finally, our third superpower is background sync. This one is all about making your experience on the web feel completely solid and reliable, especially when your internet connection is a bit shaky.
Oh man, we've all been there, right? You type out a really long comment, you hit send, and nothing.
Your Wi-Fi drops, you have no idea if it went through. Well, background sync is the cure for that headache. The service worker sees your request, and if you're offline, it just saves it. It puts it in a queue, and as soon as your connection comes back, it sends it automatically. Your data is never lost.
So we've seen just how incredibly powerful service workers can be. But, with any technology, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's really important to look at the whole picture, the pros, the cons, and how this all culminates in this idea of a progressive web app.
So let's talk trade-offs. The advantages are pretty clear. You get offline support, way faster loading, and those awesome push notifications. But the downside's real. Actually implementing a service worker can be pretty complex, and trying to debug a script that runs in the background can be a real nightmare for developers. And if you're not careful, a badly managed cache can lead to the absolute worst-case scenario. You end up serving old, stale content to your users. That's a huge pitfall.
Now, when you take all these superpowers, the caching, the offline mode, the push notifications, and you combine them, you get what's called a progressive web app, or a PWA. This is really the ultimate goal. It's a website that you can install to your phone's home screen that works offline and that feels just like a native app you'd get from the App Store. And the service worker? It's the engine that makes the whole PWA concept possible.
And I'd bet you've used a PWA without even knowing it. When you visit the mobile websites for companies like Starbucks, Uber, or Spotify, you're using a PWA. Another great example is light versions of apps, like Pinterest Lite. They're designed specifically to use less data and work great on slow connections, all thanks to that trusty service worker humming away in the background.
So let's just quickly recap it all. The caching feature gives you lightning-fast loading times. The offline mode means the site just works, no internet required. Push notifications are all about keeping users engaged. And background sync makes sure your actions are always reliable. Every single one of these features builds on the others to create a way better, way more solid experience for all of us.
From letting you read the news on the subway to making sure your chat message never gets lost in the void, service workers have truly changed the definition of what a website can be. They are these silent, powerful agents that are busy building a faster, more reliable, and just more engaging web for everyone. The only real question left is, what are they going to make possible next?